Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I'm Mark Givler, joined here by Kevin Noon. Our Southern Swing is underway. If you're not familiar, every spring for, a dozen years now.
At least.
We come down through the South, take different routes different years, but we hit the top prospects in the southeast part of the country and Texas, places like that Ohio State's recruiting. And we try and get, again, a read for you guys, an insight, a look inside things for you guys, get to know the kids that Ohio State's recruiting, get some insight into kind of maybe where Ohio State stands. And so that kicked off today here on Tuesday as we record this. And we started here in Richmond, Virginia. And we were able to get a trio of Ohio State targets, one in 26, one in 2027, and one in 2028. So we got our bases covered. Kevin, takeaways, day one.
I think that Ohio State is recruiting some of the best ones out there. I think all three interviews went really well. We'll go into some specifics. Of course, you can check out all of those interviews, not only on our audio platforms through Spreaker, but as well on youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Just three great young men, and it just really makes me feel so old, 2026, 2027, 2028, but all three had very positive things to say about Ohio State. Okay, I understand generally we're not going to travel 8, 9, 10 or more hours away to get somebody's like, yeah, they're all right. So, they know we're coming and everything's good there, but I really do think Ohio State is a team to watch for all three of these players at various points of their recruitments. Yeah,
so we started a little bit south of Richmond at Lloyd C. Bird High School. A pair of brothers, 2027 defensive end, Chris Whitehead, 2028 offensive lineman, Isaiah Whitehead. And those guys were up in the spring. Chris has an offer. Isaiah, I assume, will have one at some point. Still very early for his recruiting process of 2028. But they both seem to really gush about Ohio State. They went on a Midwest tour, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, and I know Notre Dame made a good impression as well, but it just felt like talking to them, talking to people around the school today, that Ohio State was kind of the takeaway for them from that little Midwest trip. They both like to get back for the Texas game in August. And with Chris specifically, as he's a little further along being in 2027, he's a 5-star rated defensive end. He's one of the top 10 players in the country right now in that 2027 class. Boy, it feels like Ohio State could maybe have the inside track there.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be something? I know a lot of people talk about the state of Ohio State's D-line recruiting, even though it's still pretty good. I know that as we record this, there's still the search for a defensive tackle, maybe to come through the portal. But, in 2027, already with a defensive end who's a top 10 player in the nation, all the things we heard were very positive. He walked in the room. I'm like, oh, yeah, that fits the bill. We are in the general vicinity of Chase Young, where he's from, not exactly there, but that was a player he mentioned watching as he was growing up. Nick Bosa was another player. Maybe Joey was just a little too far out the age range at that point, but everything sounds really positive. A lot of excitement. He talked about one of the biggest takeaways he had from Ohio State's practice. He had a chance to watch Ohio State's practice, and that was some of the physicality where maybe you normally wouldn't see it.
Yeah, he was impressed / stunned that Ohio State had their quarterbacks as live, meaning no black jersey. You could hit them, tackle them, whatever. They had all their quarterbacks live at the practice he was at, so he was impressed by that. There were some skirmishes, which he loved. Just the high competitive level that was there, coming off a national championship, I think really jumped out to those two. And again, another topic that continuously came up at Lloyd C. Bird High School this morning was Ohio State's focus on life outside of football, life after football, and developing players, but also developing people and successful adults. And I think those are things that are going to resonate with this family as we talk about Chris and Isaiah Whitehead. And, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. You have a 5-star defensive end from a region that most programs recruit. So those are always going to be competitive battles. But again, I think they're off to a really good start here, and this is one we're just going to have to watch and see. But this is not one I left saying, I don't think so. This is one I left thinking, they got a real chance.
Well, you look at where we are, and UVA has been dormant for a long time. Virginia Tech has its moments. I mean, people remember at 14, Virginia Tech beat Ohio State. What's a double eagle front? I mean, but there is a little bit of a vacuum here. Teams always recruit this area. Penn State's big in this area. I mean, the ACC in general, Clemson seems to come up here and do very well, but Ohio State has really been able to expand its map, though Virginia has always been in the map. I mean, we could go through and list a lot of players, most recently Trevion Henderson coming through a different part of the state. So yeah, this is not lip service. There are a lot of times it's like, yeah, you like all of these guys that you see, but I mean, everything sounded very positive. Now, that doesn't mean I'm expecting a commitment in a week or 2 weeks. He's a 27. It's best to pursue than to be hunted at this point. Let this one drag on for a while. Don't be pushing for a commitment to happen tomorrow. Even though he doesn't strike me as a flighty kid who's going to be all over the board, it's best to play offense than defense.
Yeah, I think the next few months will be interesting. I'm not sure that they'll get up for camp in June. That doesn't seem like it's a likely thing necessarily at this point, but it seems very likely that they'll be up for that Texas game. And I think, again, you get them up in the spring, you get them around the program, they get a lot of behind-the-scenes looks, and then they get to come up for that big, exciting game against Texas, assuming they're able to make that. And I think that's a really good foundation for both of those. With Isaiah being so young, he seemed to gush even more. Like, he seemed almost like it was almost like if they offered, that it was going to be very tough for him to say no. And so that was interesting to me, was how into it Isaiah was as a younger guy.
Could it be a Bosa situation? Yeah. Nick Bosa was much more a fan of the Buckeyes than Joey was. Right,
exactly. And Joey's experience at Ohio State really kind of cemented it for Nick. So you do wonder, if they get the ball rolling with Chris, does that snowball into getting a 2-for-1 at some point? But
maybe a 3-for-1.
Yeah, that's right. They have 11-year-old youngest. Their youngest is 11 years old. He's already like 5'7", 240, 250.
Something like that.
He's a big offensive lineman, so they're already talking him up. That's funny. But
his poor parents. Yes. I mean, that food bill has got to be insane.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens there. Isaiah was just so physically imposing. Just almost 6'5", about 320 right now. Just huge. I mean, Champ Smith in 26 is a guy kind of reminded me of from just a physically imposing standpoint. That really good feet. His coach raved about his feet. His ability to pass protect already. Started as a freshman. They both did. They both started their freshman years of varsity. So these are two guys that are extremely talented and high on the Buckeyes early. So those were that's a big takeaway I think from today is, we were aware of them. We knew they were big time players. That they had visited in the spring, but to really kind of sit down with them, talk to people at the school, it really left us with an impression. I think that this is for real there with Ohio State.
And we talk so much about culture and locker room, and these are guys that seem like they would fit the culture at Ohio State. And I know that gets thrown around a lot, but, I mean, there is some truth to it. They did not really seem to be huge me-first guys or anything like that, or people that were going to be all about the NIL. I mean, NIL is part of the equation. Let's not sit there and it's like, well, they're not concerned. They don't want a dime. I never said that, but I'm just saying that they really seem to be, they both have their heads on straight, and, they happen to be really good at football too.
Yeah, I think there's two kinds of recruits in today's landscape. I think there's the type that is going to line up all the NIL offers and just take the biggest number, and that's that. And they're just going to take the biggest NIL number. And then I think there's guys who are going to factor in other things, relationships, development, and those things are going to take priority. And then, by the way, the NIL needs to be competitive. It doesn't need to be the highest offer. It doesn't need to necessarily be the biggest, best offer, but something competitive. And they strike me as the latter. They really do. And we even talked to their coach about it. We'll have a thing from their head coach over there about that, Coach Bland, and he mentioned that too. He's like, everyone's kind of chasing the NIL right now. He's like, they're obviously going to command NIL dollars from a school, but that's not going to be what makes their decision for them. So I think that's, given Ryan Day's comments that we saw this afternoon about, if you're all you're doing is looking at the NIL dollars, this might not be the place for you. That seems very ironic that we were interviewing them basically at the same time that Ryan Day was making those comments.
Maybe 20 minutes before. I mean, it was right, almost synced up. It was almost Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz or whatever.
Yeah, so it was that was a really cool interview today with those guys. And then right here, we just interviewed Darius Gray, arguably the top interior offensive line prospect in the country, 5-star player. Great interview, a tremendous kid. Here he's working out. He's getting his post-school lift in here at the gym behind us or in front of us that we're looking at here, and it feels like it's trending in a pretty good direction right now. I mean, we'll see what that means. He's got like 8 official visits coming up, so there's going to be a lot of information he's going to have to process. It's going to be very competitive. But we even asked him point blank, please check out the interview. He said, Ohio State now compared to 6 months ago, better, worse, the same, and he just snapped way better. So they are trending up.
I mean, let's not forget that their new offensive line coach is from. I mean, he was coaching at Virginia Tech, so there was obviously some excitement with the familiarity and everything else that was there. It shows the soap opera nature that recruitments can go, and it's not necessarily drama that is brought on by the recruit itself. It's just all the other noise and. Is Ohio State in it? Is Ohio State leading? I mean, somewhere in between. I'm not going to say Ohio State leads, but Ohio State certainly is doing well here. A lot of official visits that are going to come up. We're in a brave new world. Only within the last couple years, you could take more than 5. The thought of 8. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of steak dinners and a lot of excitement and a lot of T-shirts and everything else. But we always talk about wanting to be the last visit or the first visit, and sometimes when you're in the middle. But I wonder, with 8 visits, we don't really have enough data to do a study on this. Do you have a fatigue? Do you have a fatigue at the end of the process? So, we'll see. But, I mean, really, really impressive guy. You sit there and you look at offensive linemen, sometimes it's like, okay, it's going to take a year or 2 in the lab to rebuild them and everything else. Well, as Mark said, we're standing in front of the gym. This just isn't some big kid who just gets in front of you. He looks powerful just walking around.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing the Tyler Bowen effect here. Darius mentioned that the reason he didn't initially have Ohio State on his official visit list is when he scheduled all his visits, Ohio State didn't have an offensive line coach yet. Like the Justin Fry thing was kind of going on. And so he didn't really know what to do about that. And he was incredibly enthusiastic when he learned that Tyler Bowen got the job, because he did have a prior relationship with Bowen from his days at Virginia Tech. So this is definitely a Bowen impact type of thing. We'll see where it goes. Like I said, I was writing him off a few months ago. I'm not writing him off anymore. I've slowly but surely, once he made the spring visit, I said, okay. And he schedules the official, and so I'm slowly coming around that they're going to be a player here.
Ohio State already has the nice framework of a class, and then you sit there and you look at Champ Smith and you look at Drew Evers, and now you look here. I mean, it makes you wonder just how deep they're going to go, because a lot of these guys they're looking at are not guys that you're going to say, no, sorry, we're full.
Yeah, exactly. And so my take from kind of talking to people and reading the room too as well, just kind of reading what they're doing, is they're going to take 6 for sure. And then it's a matter of, can we get, as they sit there, in their coaches meeting, can we get a 7th guy who makes sense? And can we convince one of these guys to be the 7th guy? Maybe the harder sell. But I think 6 is probably a minimum number right now.
Well, and just because you're the 7th guy in the class doesn't mean you're number 7 in the pecking order. Correct. As well. So, sometimes there's adjustments and everything else, but, I think that there has been so much concern, so much hand-wringing over Ohio State's offensive line recruiting. Fans got the change that they finally wanted. Maybe not the players. They were pretty, they adored Justin Fry, but now we're seeing somebody who was a former recruiting coordinator during his career. We're seeing a different approach maybe in terms of how recruiting is falling, and I think that there are a lot of Ohio State fans that are saying sign me up for many more years of this.
Yeah, he's off to a good start. Now, the first time he misses on a 5-star recruit from outside the state of Ohio, it's going to be fun to read the posts on social media. But he's definitely made a good impression. My final takeaway from Richmond, and this isn't just Richmond. This goes back into my conversations with the recruits over the last month or so. This goes back to my time at the Ohio Under Armour camp on Sunday. Is Matt Patricia is way more involved in recruiting than I thought he would be. Chris Whitehead pointed that out, that he sat down with Matt Patricia. I've talked to Sincere Johnson at the Ohio Under Armour camp about sitting down with Matt. Like, every priority defensive target I've talked to, I've asked them about like their position coach, and they, without even me really going into it, they also say, oh, but also Matt Patricia laid out this, and this for me. So I thought maybe this would be Chip Kelly of the defense, of where, dude, just coordinate the defense, make the defense good, and let the rest of us do the recruiting, Mr. NFL guy. But he has really seemed to take a hands-on approach to this. He seems very involved.
We don't know what the on-field product is going to look like yet, and we won't know until the Texas game. But yeah, there was a lot of concern that they were going to have another DC in there, kind of like Jim Knowles, who wasn't much of a recruiter. We're just going to leave you back, and you're going to work on fixing the defense. Well, the defense has been fixed. Now it's a matter of being able to carry that over and advance further. But I think that is just such a big point. And people saw Matt Patricia when he was with the Detroit Lions, and losing sucks. And if he looked like a curmudgeon and everything else, it's because losing sucks. And he's part of a team now that won the national championship, high expectations, and he's going out there and he's getting it done. I mean, show me 5, 6, 7 recruits that commit because of him, and then we can really say he's getting it done. But this is a very different setup than what we saw previously.
Yeah, it's just it's a little unexpected for me. It's a little bit of a pleasant surprise for me. Again, so much background in the NFL. A lot of those guys don't recruit. Some of them, Tim Walton's maybe an exception, but Tim Walton had college experience as well. So it's just been a bit of a revelation for me to hear how often defensive recruits are making sure they point out Matt Patricia's impact on their visit, Matt Patricia's impact on their interest in Ohio State. It's been an unexpected thing. It's been a bit of a revelation for me.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of what my final thought is, because that was a really good one, and I'm not just saying it because he's standing here next to me, but I think that's a big takeaway. I just think, once again, I am always wowed by the caliber of kids that Ohio State is recruiting. And oftentimes I hear questions about, why are they not recruiting this guy or that guy? And, I'm very pro player. I'm not, especially the kids. And people are like, well, they're getting paid now, so are they really kids? Yes, they're still kids. And they're going to be guys that Ohio State's not going to recruit. But, Ohio State is 3 for 3 in terms of guys that I felt were just, really, good guys. I mean, they're still kids. I mean, especially a class of 2028, but, they were all great. And I know that as the trip goes on, we're going to see more and more of that. And that's why you don't have as many locker room issues. It's why you don't have a case. Ohio State lost 0 scholarship players to the transfer portal coming out of the season. And sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes a kid is just brick-walled in. But with Ohio State having 14 players going in the draft and a couple, 3 undrafted free agents as well, I mean, there's a huge turnover. So you probably weren't going to have as much turnover that way. So another testament to the locker room culture and to things that were started, years ago and even up to this year. And I guess I do kind of want to throw in something else that was very important in our last interview of the day, and that was the whole faith component and the
Yeah,
links. And we don't want, and I don't want to spoil everything in the interview and give you no reason to watch it. Please watch the interviews.
Yeah, and like I told Darius during the interview when we were talking about this, there are certain questions I have to ask. I have to ask their thoughts on Ohio State. I have to ask who they're considering, when they're visiting, all that stuff. But when I can, I like the players to direct kind of the direction of the interview. It makes for a better interview. They open up more. They talk more. You get more out of it as a viewer. And he was really impressed with the whole, the faith-based kind of brotherhood that they formed this year, and getting, I know the players were able to get the cross on their championship rings, and he pointed that out as a cool thing for them to do to as he said, to thank God for, the opportunities that they had this year and everything else. So I thought that was interesting as we talk about, where Darius Gray may be leaning. I thought that was an interesting feather in their cap in this race.
Exactly. I mean, and Trevion Henderson from the state of Virginia, somebody that was one of the leaders of this, revival, and he's like, oh yeah, trust me, I know. So I think that certainly doesn't hurt Ohio State. I mean, again, there are going to be a multitude of reasons that any player is going to decide upon a school, but when you can check off multiple boxes, because going back to, talking to our first two interviews of the day, again, the 40-year decision versus the 4-year decision. Yes, it's almost become a cliche at this point, but it's easy for us to call it a cliche. We're not being recruited. I never was being recruited. But, these guys, they have so much thrown at them by so many different schools. And the fact that we hear the same thing universally really means a lot, because I don't think Ohio State is putting them up for it. And if you ever do any interviews, be sure to mention this. I mean, it's a comment that is coming holistically. Yeah,
no question. And clearly Ohio State is attracting a certain caliber of human being. Like they just are at this point. When you look at a Caleb Downs, a Jack Sawyer, a Jeremiah Smith, they're not just great football players. They really have been good people in their communities. They've helped children in Columbus. They've been model citizens off the field. This used to be police blotter season. We used to worry, every day, be like, oh, did anyone get arrested? There's been such. I say this not to jinx them.
That's in Athens, Georgia.
Right. I say this not to jinx them, but they've had a lot of quiet off seasons on that front lately, and I do think there's something to that.
Incoming call from Ryan Day in 3, 2, and 1. You jinxed us, but yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it is just a different caliber of kids that Ohio State's recruiting. I mean, it's not a case of that there aren't other schools recruiting these guys, but Ohio State just hit after hit after hit after hit, and now that's hard to do, because there's a lot of unpredictability with teenage males,
especially now with the money involved, and money changes people. I mean, it just does. So, yeah, they've done a great job of keeping that locker room tight in a environment that's never been more difficult to do that. So, those are all. That's an interesting point there, Kevin. And so I think we're about to wrap it up. We have to get. I can tell you guys where we're going. We're going south. Southern Swing is going south. We're heading into North Carolina tonight to get in position for tomorrow. So look for some stuff out of North Carolina here the next couple of days. And then we will continue on, but we'll try and keep you guys as updated as we can. We'll do these what we learn type things at least a couple times, 2 to 3 times a week minimum, as we wrap up certain areas of our trip and kind of do our takeaways. And so we'll keep you guys informed on that. Please do watch the interviews. Helps us out, helps you learn more about the kids Ohio State's recruiting, and kind of helping them get exposure as well. So appreciate everyone's support, appreciate everyone watching and listening, and make sure you're on BuckeyeHuddle.com here the next week. It's going to be fun.